Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Lüning, Horst Lüning. I'm the master taster of Whisky.com, and today I have a range of Macallan single malt whiskies here on my cask. And it's the Gold, the Amber, the Sienna and the Ruby. And those four bottles together make up the 1824 collection, series. I don't know the exact name. Is it here on the Serious. All those four bottles is in common that they are not colored, not artificially colored. The color of those four whiskey bottles comes directly from the casks, which are used for the maturation of the whiskey. So the Gold is quite golden and light. The Amber, well, is a little bit darker, fuller in tone, a light orange hue in it. Then the Sienna is darker, like ochre. And the Ruby, well, shows a ruby red tone, but this is not from Ruby port wine. No, it's from first fill Oloroso sherry casks. So all those four bottles have their origin in sherry casks, in Spanish sherry casks. That does not mean that they are all from European oak. No, they come from American white oak, which is imported into Spain for the usage of the maturation or the barrique maturation of sherry, and of European oak. And typically in these days the usage of American white oak for the sherry grows and grows. So it's much more common to use the smoother, more elegant American white oak for sherry than it was in former times. Very much on the left side you see the Macallan 12 years old, matured in sherry casks. And this was the standard in the industry. This was the number one bottle single malt whiskey, the Rolls Royce of the single malts. Well, and in 2012, there were rumors in the market that Macallan will stop the selling of all single malts whiskies with an age statement on it as long as they are younger than 18 years. I said, rumors, don't believe them. This is the most important bottle in the market, and Macallan can't do that. They can't stop selling the 12-year-old from the sherry casks. But it happened. Shit happens. Sorry. Now, 2015, most of the aged or with an age statement on the label, aged Macallans are gone from the shelves, from the market. There had been the 10-year-old, which was common in Scotland and Great Britain in particular, and the 12-year-old, which was more common on the continent and in the US. And then there was a second range of bottles on the market, which they started to introduce because of the shortage of the Macallan single malt whiskey, and that was named Fine Oak. And those Fine Oak was matured in three different casks: in American white oak casks from the bourbon industry, so ex-bourbon casks, first fill, second fill, third fill, and sherry casks from American white oak, and third, sherry casks of Spanish oak. And this brought quite a complexity to the Fine Oak series, but they were lighter. They were, not that complicated, not that deep and strong. So they sold quite well in the market, and the aficionados of Macallan said, this is the beginning of the end. They are watering the brand Macallan with this Fine Oak, but they sold very, very well. And Macallan was able to stay with an age statement on the label a little bit longer, 3, 4, 5 years. But now they're really seeing the floors of the warehouses. And 2008 they started with the old. They have an old still house with 4 or 6 pot stills in it, and a new one with a glass outside, so it's very fancy, very good looking. And when they started with the new warehouse, this glass house, they stopped the production in the old one. And then in 2008, they said, well, we have to start the second still house in addition to keep up with the volume we need. And today they say, well, we need another distillery. And I call it a hobbit distillery because it's built below the surface. There's some curved shaped and grass on the roofs. And this second distillery on the same premise will increase the output of Macallan. So hopefully we see in the future, in the upcoming decades, aged Macallans again. Hopefully. No idea if this really happens. So these 1824 series, the 1824 is the year in which Macallan was founded, and this was, well, one of the years or the first year where the Crown in Edinburgh said, well, if you go for a license, then you're allowed to produce whiskey in the Highlands. In former times it was not allowed because infrastructure was bad, and they always thought that there was more whiskey produced and not taxed than they thought, and they were right. And so from 1824 on, most of the distilleries in the Highlands are founded from 1824 to 1826. Those were the years where the existing moonshine distilleries were licensed. Again, to the whiskies, they are uncolored. And if you compare the colors of the gold, you see to the others, you see it's the lightest, and it's even lighter than the old 12-year-old. So there are either younger whiskies in it or a higher percentage of refilled casks. So it is quite light. It's a wonderful fruity whiskey. I will taste it in the upcoming days. The next one is the Amber, and this has a darker tone, and it's, well, say 80% to the color of the 12-year-old. So this one also compares quite well to the 12-year-old sherry cask, and it is smoother. It's more drinkable. The others is the 12-year-old is more intense and rougher and more demanding. The Sienna is well above that, and I think the Sienna is very close to the 18-year-old fine oak. Not the 18-year-old sherry oak, but the 18-year-old fine oak. Well, 2/3 of the way to this wonderful, one of the best I ever had, the 18-year fine oak. And the 18-year-old full sherry cask, it compares to the Ruby, but the Ruby is darker. It has seen only 100% first fill sherry casks, and the 18-year-old sherry cask, I think it has also some refill sherry cask in it, but the percentage of first fill sherry casks in the 18-year-old is very, very high. So this is what we will see in the upcoming years as the only available Macallan whiskey in the standard range, the domestic standard range, and there are some bottles, different ones for the travel value, and I can't remember the names. So every distillery has a distiller's select and master and whatever. So beside these bottles, you will see others in the travel value, and all of them are expensive. So this one is close to 50. This is between 50 and 60. This is around 80, and this is between 150 and 200. So they are quite expensive, and everybody said, no, this is the beginning of the end, and too expensive, no age statement on it. And I think I took a video of whiskies with no age statement on it, and this is the beginning of the end of Macallan. No. They were able to increase their revenues from 2013 to 2014 by 11%. So they are selling this range a lot, and people like it very much. So if you're still staying to these old aged whiskies with 10, 12 years statement on it, well, they are getting more and more expensive the less the are in the wholesale dealers' warehouses, where they gain value every year, and from time to time there are coming some 12-year-old sherry casks out of those vaults, and you have to pay more and more. The 12-year-old is, I think, close to 100 today, so quite expensive. So it makes sense to look at the amber, which is only 60. And what are they doing? And all those 4 bottles are from sherry casks, American white oak as well as European oak. And what to do with the bourbon casks, the refill bourbon casks? There are still a few thousands of them at the Macallan Distillery. Well, the Macallan Distillery also belongs to the Edrington Group, which also owns Highland Park and the famous grouse. So those ex-bourbon casks from Macallan go into the famous grouse. And the Edrington Group itself is owned by the Robertson Trust, and they are, they pay grants for students in the UK. So it's a charitable trust, and you're consuming without profit. So everything the Robertson Trust is earning with this Macallan goes to the Robertson Trust, or over the Robertson Trust into the education of children. I think that's a very good idea, and therefore I'm willing to pay a few euros more for such a good idea. In the upcoming days I will have a look at all those, and the Ruby I had already. Here's the video to this, and then I brought a bottle of the 12-year-old with 43% ABV from the travel value, and let's see how the 43% compares to the 40%. This is it. My brain is empty, not more to say. Stay tuned, there's more to come, and feel free to discuss this range of whiskies with me in our vlog on Whisky.com, as well as in our forum on Whisky.com.